Did you discuss the Germany attack perpetrator? I legitimately feel that he did it as to disable Saudi refugees from seeking asylum. I got a message from a Saudi refugee friend of mine who's legitimately concerned about what could happen in terms of their social circles and their overall future. I don't know. I mean, his motivations are that he's fucking insane. That's number one. Number two, it's actually a really interesting situation. I covered it extensively on my last YouTube video, if you guys want to go watch it, where, you know, the reality of the matter is, immediately as soon as this happened, they were like, oh, it's Islamic terror because it's a Christmas market and a lot of people are racist. So they immediately were like, oh, this is yet another jihadi Islamic terror. This is what happens when you bring in Muslims into your country. All of this stuff, right? Immediately, all the AFD accounts were chirping. Okay? All of the AFD accounts on German Twitter and everyone that like loves the international fascist collaboration was going crazy over it, being like, oh, this is yet another Islamist attack, blah, blah, blah. Now, the interesting predicament here is that when he was arrested, they very quickly revealed his identity. And it turns out he was not only just like a random dude, he was actually a somewhat famous person in these right-wing circles. So every single person that actually tweeted this shit, it turns out the guy who did the attack was a fan of. Like Geert Wilders. He said, they hate us. They despise our values. They kill us and our children. We have to stand up with perseverance and vigor. No more. Never again. This is our land, our freedom, our life. And we'll defend it and never surrender. Join me and we will win. We will win. Yeah. Not only is the guy an AFD supporter, he's to the right of the AFD. He is the suspect is obsessed with the idea of like Islamic jihad happening in the Western world. He is a Saudi doctor that came to Germany in 2006. He had called Geert Wilders his hero. I genuinely think Elon is suppressing these tweets, by the way. Part of the reason why is because he's also a fan of Elon Musk. She didn't back down from the hijab police, from the Iranian mullah. She is a true hero, and Islam is incompatible with freedom and respect for women. The person's name is Taleb al-Abdul Mohsen. He replied to Geert Wilders not that long ago, you are the true hero. His account immediately got suspended. Very interesting, considering he was also a Tommy Robinson fan. Admin post. Here come the empty words of European leaders. Macron says he's shocked by the latest Islamic attack on European soil by those who's welcomed by the same disgraced lot. He's overseen double-figure Islamic terror attacks on the French people, mass deportations. Tommy Robinson is literally in prison, but earlier tonight, his social media team attributed the terror attack in Magdeburg to Islamists and called for mass deportations. It now appears that the perpetrator was actually one of Tommy's internet friends. Every single one of these right-wing fucking pieces of shit literally were immediately, once they realized who the account belonged to, who the perpetrator was, started trying to mass unfollow in real time. He went from when I first looked at his account, like the moment that his name was revealed, I looked at his account, he had like 48,000 followers. That's not a small fucking account. In a couple hours, it went down to 44,000 followers. I suspect a lot of people realized that maybe they were fucking friendly with this account, or maybe they had interacted with this account. I have if they haven't taken it down yet, I don't know, but in my YouTube video, I watched him talk to some fucking right-wing Rumble guy, okay? Many German right-wing influencers actually followed him. We have a screenshot of the whole list. Yeah, please send it to me. Yeah, RAIR immediately posted an update to that interview. Of course they did. They suspended the account. Did you say 40K down to 44K? I thought he had I thought he had 48K initially, and then it went down to 40K followers. It's still up? Oh, it went back up? They suspended the account, but maybe they brought it back up after people yelled about it. Now, it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting that this guy was a prolific tweeter. Oh, yeah, his account is back up. Okay. He was a prolific tweeter. He did not hide his perspective. As a matter of fact, not only did he not hide his perspective, but he is one of those guys. Okay? He is one of those guys. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. One of those fucking rabid right-wing fascists. One of those rabid right-wing fascists that is replying to all these other fascists as well online, that routinely collaborated with other fascists online, and he was obsessed with the idea that Muslims were coming to the West to do jihad, to ruin the West. Okay? Him being Saudi does not change that reality. He is one of these militant ex-Muslim type of guys that thinks that they have found a space in the Western world by just like consistently fucking shitting on Arabs and claiming that Arabs are trying to like make Germany a Sharia country or whatever the fuck. Okay? And not only that, but also he was incredibly pro-Israel. Okay? He was also aligned with a lot of these other fucking rabid Islamophobic accounts, and he made content with them regularly. Just something to consider. It's crazy that Talib described himself as a leftist just 7 days ago in the Rair Foundation interview. A leftist? Brother, he was the thing that he was hyper focused on. First of all, what leftist is doing an interview with a right-wing Rumble account that follows Tommy Robinson, that loves Geert Wilders? What do you mean? What leftist is pro-AFD? Anyway, but it was really interesting because, they apprehended the shooter alive. Or not the shooter, sorry. The perpetrator alive. He didn't shoot anybody. He drove into the Christmas market in a heinous attack. And not only did they do that, it was really interesting to see. It was really interesting to see, in my opinion, it was really interesting to see all of these AFD accounts initially run with this notion that this was Islamist terror. And then basically eat crow, but they are refusing to eat crow as well, because why ever recognize the truth? They're just still trying to double down as best as they can. And now some people on these right-wing pro-AFD accounts are saying it's a psyop.
The latest detail that we've received from Magdeburg police here in the last few minutes. This is what they had to say at the press conference.
The first caller imagined that it was an accident on the basis of what they could see. However, we received at least double-digit number of emergency calls, and we rapidly realized that this was actually an attack, not an accident.
Festgestellt mit einer Situation, dass aus Richtung der Strombrücke die
The route taken by the perpetrator started at 2 minutes past 7. We've noted that
hat die Situation dann für sich so ausgenutzt, dass
he drove past
Geschwindigkeit unmittelbar dann bei dem Fußgängerüberweg den Flucht- und Rettungsweg
and he used the situation at the traffic lights
des alten Marktes
to
genutzt
be able to travel slowly across the pedestrian crossing,
dann nachher in diesen
and he
Flucht- und
took the
Rettungsweg
route that was
eingefahren,
actually planned
hat dort
for emergency response.
How is he Saudi Arabian when he lived in Germany? He's of Saudi descent, of Saudi origin. He came to Germany in 2006. He requested asylum and was granted asylum and permanent citizenship in 2016 by the German government.
Sponges to use if
He spent a whole bit of time apparently trying to also get ex-Muslims from Saudi Arabia into Germany and other countries. He even personally stated that Sharia had taken over places like Canada, so he was taking ex-Muslims from Canada and bringing them to Germany as well.
he'd be going into the so-called old marketplace, and he turned into that route quite deliberately, injured a number of people on the way. He then kept driving and drove towards the old marketplace, the Alter Markt,
dann in Richtung Rathaus gefahren
and
auf
thus
dem
ended
alten
up
Markt, hat
on the actual
dort
Christmas
nach einem
market. He
kurzen
then turned
Schlenker ist das
to the
dann eine
right
relativ gerade Strecke, die Geschwindigkeit erheblich
and
erhöht.
then drove towards the
Ist
town
dann,
hall on the old town square.
Why do they still call him Saudi Arabian doctor if he's a German citizen? You know BBC chose this title? Yeah, of course.
Bis zum alten Markt
And
gefahren
then
und dort
drove
wiederum rechts
round a
abgebogen.
curve.
Yeah, also, this is what globalize the intifada means, says Dr. Eli David. Will Europe wake up and fight for its survival before it's too late? Turns out, Times of Israel article, report, Saudi suspect in German Christmas market attack was anti-Islam activist who shared pro-Israel content. But people still don't believe it. Now, this is there are multiple different problems here. Things that I have talked about for years and years, from the ex-Muslim activists who serve the purpose of doing Candace Owens style Islamophobia, all the way to the fact that Twitter has basically created this like global Twitter has basically created this like global fascist coalition where people can get together from every different walks of all different walks of life all around the planet and collaborate with one another on new and unique ways of being racist, and how much that I think has ruined the space of political discourse on Twitter, and how much that has like actively played a role in further radicalizing people who are already obviously not mentally the most sane people. And last but not least, apparently there were a lot of people who actually saw this dude, recognized how fucking insane he was, and actually tried to warn authorities about his proclivity towards violence, like doing violent acts. Okay? And yet, no one took it seriously. Twitter didn't take it seriously. None of the authorities took it seriously. And there it is.
Leftist. I'm not on the right. And what I discovered as a leftist is that leftists are the worst criminals on this planet. And I'm
Yeah. Yeah, he was on the radar for sure. He was on the radar for many people. Yeah, I like that he's like, I'm a leftist on Rare Foundation USA talking about his main action, his main political contribution. And the thing that he talked about the most was how Arabs were Islamizing Europe, okay, invading Europe to do jihad, to turn Germany into a Sharia law country. A Saudi girl living in Germany reported to the German police in September 2023 about the danger of a man called Talib al-Mohsen, who was planning to run people over with his car. German police ignored the report and acted in a stupid, bureaucratic manner. A month later, the first report, Talib tweeted threatening to kill 20 Germans, and the same girl sent a report to the police that was also ignored. I don't know the veracity of this. This is what I saw, though. Well, the German news broadcast called him leftist terrorist and wants to punish Germans earlier today. Yeah, except Welt was literally the first broadcaster that revealed that he was a fucking anti-Islam activist. Apparently she did. She did actually, I guess, send this email to the police, the German police. No, it was Spiegel. No, Welt. Welt was where we found out. I thought it was Welt that I read. Welt was the article that we read from. 7 hours ago, Elon doubling down on AFD. Yeah, it was Welt that actually showed this person's multiple conflicts with the justice system. Perpetrator missed court day 1 day before the attack. Even a secular person can use terrorist motives in a phase of confusion. 1 day after the attack, the man's biography. Al Abdul Mohsen was born in Saudi Arabia, came to Germany in 2006. He has a permanent residence permit. In 2016, he was granted asylum as a politically persecuted person. In an interview with Faz newspaper in 2019, he said that they wanted to slaughter him if he returned to Saudi Arabia. His last place of residence was Bernburg, about 50 kilometers south of Magdeburg. He has been working as a doctor at a correctional facility in Bernburg since March 2020. The correctional facility in Bernburg is an institution of the state of Saxony-Anhalt for the reform and security of addicted criminals. He has not been on duty since the end of October 2024 due to a vacation and illness, the company said in a statement. Al Abdul Mohsen told investigators that his motive for the crime was a dissatisfaction with the way Saudi Arabian refugees are treated in Germany. Investigators did not want to provide any further details. Interviews and online activities paint a picture of a man who rejected Islam, who increasingly despised the German police authorities in particular and sympathized with the AfD, and who felt increasingly persecuted. In a 2019 interview with the Faz, the perpetrator described himself as the most aggressive critic of Islam in history. He's an atheist and has applied asylum in Germany because he fears persecution as an unbeliever and critic of Islam in his home country. The BBC and Spiegel reported similarly in 2019. So what's really interesting about this is that this isn't like a random person. Okay? That's what's crazy about it. It's like one of the common villains on Twitter. Okay? And you know, there are many of them, right? Many of them Elon Musk actually interacts with on a regular basis. It's like a guy like that going and doing a fucking heinous act of violence. It's not just like a random dude with like 300 followers or whatever. This was a dude who was very visible both online in these fucking right-wing circles and also in like someone who was trying to be an influencer of the far right, and also simultaneously was like a known figure that was not shy of being in front of the media, being in front of cameras. There are so many, like you rarely ever get a situation where you got like a guy who is constantly getting interviewed by numerous outlets and very openly and routinely saying, this is my fucking attitude. This is my perspective. Okay. His motive in this immediate moment, the heinous act of violence, the motive for that might not be instantly clear, but his ideology is. Yeah, it's like if Cat Turd went on a mass shooting spree or something. He had made it his mission to show other persecuted people in Saudi Arabia a way to asylum in Germany or Australia. The man also appeared on his X profile as an ex-Muslim critic of Islam. On Friday evening, he posted several videos in which he said in English, "I hold the German nation responsible for the killing of Socrates. And another reason why I hold German citizens responsible for the persecution I experienced in Germany is the story of a USB stick stolen from my mailbox." Later, he said in the video, "The government is criminal. Instead of protecting me, the police are the criminals. In this case, I hold the German nation and German citizens responsible." So he's fucking insane, too, on top of that. In June of this year, the account posted in German, "In my experience, the German police are the real drivers of Islamism in Germany. My experience is 7 years of police, most recently in March 2024, using dirty tactics against me and other critics of Islam to destroy our anti-Islam activism. The left is crazy. We need the AfD to protect the police from them." The police were already dealing with him in 2023. According to Welt information, there was a risk assessment of the 50-year-old at the time. The LKA in Magdeburg, together with the BKA, came to the conclusion that the man posed no concrete danger. The State Office for the Protection of the Constitution in Saxony-Anhalt was also involved, but did not conduct its own investigations. At a press conference on Saturday, investigators announced that last year they had considered interviewing Al Abdulmazen as a potential threat. However, this apparently did not happen. The police did not provide any details. According to the public prosecutor's office, Al Abdulmazen was not the focus of investigators. German security circles confirmed to Welt that the Saudi embassy had alerted the German authorities to Al Abdulmazen several times. According to the Reuters news agency, this happened in 2023 and 2024. However, the information only related to the man's public posts on the short message service X. Saudi Arabia said it demanded the man's extradition. Here he is on a BBC segment. And it's crazy because, like, depending on the level of racism, the dudes who were like homies with this guy are now still saying, yeah, no, he's still like secretly in the pocket of Islam. He secretly was doing this because he's still an Islamist. He's secretly doing this because he's like, he wanted to do a psyop against the AFD. You know? Like, they just remember, this is a common trope with the sweatiest, grossest, most unwashed corners of the internet, right? David DePipi. Remember? When a 4chan loser actually goes out in broad daylight and follows through on all the shit that they fucking talk about in these goddamn circles, all the violence that they fantasize about, every single one of that person's allies will turn around and be like, nah, dog, he's actually gay. That's a gay libtard, dude. He was doing it for the homosexual misconduct. And that's kind of what's happening with the German AFD Twitter. People that were like people that were riding with this guy are turning around and being like, no, he's actually fucking still doing secret Islam activities. He was never really a fucking ex-Muslim. Or some people are saying, can you even be ex-Muslim, really? Is that even a real thing? It seems like he was just, this is the mind of an Arab. That's just that's what it is. They are just predisposed to doing acts of terror.
Saudi Arabia, I'm an activist. I created a website to help people seeking asylum, especially from Saudi Arabia. And
yeah, look, here's a good one. Don't let the media fool you. If Al Abdul was primarily anti-Muslim, he would have driven into a Muslim street festival. There were massive demonstrations by Syrian Islamists celebrating Al-Qaeda in the past weeks. Abdul did nothing. He waited until it was 4 days before Christmas and exactly chose the spot where he would kill the most indigenous Germans, a Christmas market. I mean, this guy's just straight up a Nazi, by the way. Anti-European hatred is not exclusive to Islamists. Remigration will not be exclusive to Islamists. Like 43,000 likes. The irony, of course, is that like this kind of straightforward neo-Nazi sentiment, okay, and he followed this guy, I'm pretty sure, but this kind of neo-Nazi sentiment is, under normal circumstances, if you have a platform that cares about its terms of service, this is the type of shit that you're supposed to ban, right? But Elon Musk has basically primed the algorithm to hype this kind of shit, slowly but surely creating a pressure cooker. Al Abdul is one of the examples of what happens when that pressure cooker reaches a boiling point. All of these fucking disgusting little cretins that were previously banned off the platform now are unbanned, and also on top of that have reached a level of prominence. Okay? I keep trying to explain to people how dangerous this predicament is, and yet seemingly it falls on deaf ears. Are you not a part of the pressure cooker in other contexts? Do you think that someone who is actively agitating for race war and advocating to kill or deport people violently for qualities that they cannot change about themselves, like intractable intrinsic qualities like your ethnic background, your religion, or your race, is the same as me advocating for, I don't know, socialized medicine? Do you think that my radicalization is the same as this other thing? Have you no moral backbone, no moral compass, nothing steering you? You just kind of go, well, I think everything is the same. You know, if someone is advocating for religion isn't intractable, shut the fuck up. I hate this argument. Okay, what are you gonna do? Mass fucking brainwash people? Like, what do you mean? Okay, anti-religious attitudes, even in the USSR, was a massive fucking failure. Okay, anti-Islamization in the USSR was a fucking massive failure. Stop with this nonsense. Just because you don't believe it doesn't mean that people also don't take it in the same way. Do you understand? For billions of people on this planet, religion is an intractable quality. Okay? Religious persecution is completely unacceptable. What are we talking about? It doesn't matter. I'm not even talking about it from my own personal perspective, my own personal framework. Just let people fucking breathe. Ironically enough, the attitude that you have quite literally is exhibited by this fucking guy too, the terrorist. Yeah, religion is also a proxy for race, which is why him being an atheist is irrelevant for the Nazis' perception of him anyway. Exactly. So fascism believes it's intrinsical too. You cannot compare a violent ideology, or any sort of ideology really, but especially a violent ideology, to religion. Okay? You just can't. People's attitudes shift. People's attitudes change. That's not necessarily a bad thing either. Religion, as long as it's not used to do any sort of governance, is just a fucking belief system, and persecuting people over their religious beliefs is fucking idiotic. Okay? It's not only idiotic, but history is riddled with cruelty. Cruelty done to those who simply believe things that governments don't want them to. I despise this attitude. The militancy demonstrated by Reddit atheists is, ironically enough, this fedora-wearing dipshit also had that same exact resentment. He harbored that same exact fucking idiotic resentment. It ends up creating, it ends up causing you to believe falsehoods, okay? Just so you understand.
The Gulf region. Yeah, I use basically WhatsApp, Twitter, Telegram. If I have time, I spend totally helping Saudi asylum seekers between 10 to 16 hours a day, if I have time.
How is a belief not intractable? Obviously, just let people believe whatever they want, but you can't overswing just because Reddit atheists are annoying as fuck. The reason why I put religion in a separate category is because it is something that is so deeply personal to the way that people fucking examine the world, okay? And as long as it's not harming anyone else, as long as it has nothing to do with governance, as long as it is not used in any fucking way to harm others, I don't care. Okay? And it is certainly a little bit different than, it is certainly of a higher value to those who believe than your political party that you're voting for, or even your political ideology. If you're outside of that, if you're agnostic, if you're atheist, it is virtually impossible for you to comprehend this. And I understand it. Okay, I get it. I get where you're coming from. You're like, what do you mean? I grew up in a religious household and I fucking despise religion. That means everyone else can do the same. Okay? It's like sexuality in that respect, kind of. I think that sexuality is I think a little bit more natural than religion, though. Atheism is dogmatic theism. You are exactly what you are criticizing. Yeah, I mean, it is. It does unironically turn dogmatic when militant atheists like behave in this way. What's good? We're waiting. Okay, no, it's fine. We got time. Yeah.
The only Arab country from which I did not have an ex-Muslim seeking help until now from me is Oman. 90% of people who approach me are women between 18 and 30 years old.
I wasn't allowed out like with friends. I was forced to wear.
I do think critiques of religion when it comes to how it breeds anti-queer rhetoric is healthy. There is never a moment where I will ever fucking give breathing room to people that say, well, my religion says this is wrong, so I don't care. Like, that's not a thing that is allowed here, okay? You can believe whatever the fuck you want to believe as long as you're not trying to enforce your standards of living and your false interpretation upon others and the way that they exist, as long as they're not harming anybody. Okay, your own personal liberties, there's a line on your own personal liberties. That line extends to other people's line. The moment that you breach that boundary is a moment that it is no longer acceptable. Okay, and I hate this conversation because it almost always loops back around to the militant atheist, anti-theist, dogmatic ways of thinking. Hold on. Like, ironically enough, anti-theists end up reinforcing the same dogmatic structures. They are convinced of how right they are. Okay. And even if I am personally more biased in that direction, I still get very frustrated because you end up proselytizing in an identical manner, but because you're so invested in your righteousness that you end up coming across exactly like a fucking Jehovah's Witness or whatever. And the problem here is there is no mechanism of like state enforced. There is no state enforced mechanism in this structure that will actually successfully breed out religiosity. Okay, letting the tide of science take its course and consistently continue to contextualize things that we still do not comprehend with scientific research is the appropriate measure if you want to fucking eradicate religious beliefs. Okay? It's idiotic to try to force it, especially when it offers people a sense of comfort. It offers people a sense of understanding. Not only is it silly, And when turned into a mechanism of governance, it can often turn violent. Okay. But it's also idiotic in terms of creating a sense of solidarity on materialist boundaries. I don't care if you are a Christian or a Muslim or Jewish or whatever you want to fucking believe. Okay? As long as you recognize who's doing the harm to you, and as long as you're not actually enforcing your own religious boundaries, enforcing your own understanding of the world, your own religious interpretation upon others by subjecting them to cruelty, I don't give a shit. And it's also unique because it is very debate lordy. It is very debate lordy in the sense that, Reddit atheists do genuinely believe that they can just like debate people into not believing religion. Like they think that if you say the right words, there is like a very sovereign citizen, almost libertarian aspect to it, where it's like if they say the magic words, like the other person across from you is going to snap out of it. And that's not how this fucking works. You can't like logic someone into a position that they didn't arrive at through logic. Okay? There is no magic set of words that you can tell someone that will cause them to automatically become a non-religious person. Oh yeah, I watched a TikTok live and I'm no longer religious.
Hijab. I obviously took it off when I went to school because I didn't like it, and most of the girls in school didn't wear it. I enjoyed fasting because other people.
It is truly fascinating. It is truly fascinating to me though, because like this community still harbors is very, harbors a non-insignificant amount of like Reddit atheists or like militant atheists, I guess, or anti-theists in general. And what's interesting about it is that like at least you guys aren't fucking still Jordan Peterson fans. At least you guys aren't still Sam Harris fans and whatnot. But notice how so many of the anti-Islam people basically became incredibly fucking virulent racists. Like, does that not strike you as odd at all? Virtually every single prominent atheist became one step removed, but like one step short of just like a straight up white supremacist. In certain instances, a straight up white supremacist. How'd that happen, you think? Doesn't that strike you as odd? Don't you think that it's like there has to be some level of illogical thinking there? If these guys, if all of the most prominent atheist figureheads have this irrational sense of hatred towards one group of people that comprises billions of people on the fucking planet, as a matter of fact, and actively works to monolithize them. What about Dawkins? Yeah, Dawkins. You mean Dawkins, who personally said he's actually culturally Christian and that the Western world must remain culturally Christian and we need to eradicate the Islamization of the Western world? That guy? Virtually every single I hate all religions equally people turned into maybe I don't hate all religions equally. Maybe I just hate Islam a little bit more because it's the most violent one. They've like tried to logic themselves into that corner.